Talk Stroke. I am your host and stroke survivor, Jerry Walt. And thank you guys for being here. And I started doing the show for you, for the new people that are here. I started doing the show to bring awareness to stroke, TBI, aphasia, mental health, brain injury, and also to provide a platform for all survivors to share their stories, their journeys from literally across the world, and also bringing on experts in brain health so they can share their knowledge with us. So, because the brain, we obviously probably still don't know everything we want to know about the brain. But anyway, this morning, my guest is the one and only Ralph Preston, who he had a stroke in 2008. Similar to, well, I had a hemorrhagic stroke, so did he, at an age of 58. But we'll talk about that. And he's also the founder of Stroke Buddies on Facebook, and which they currently have, I think I got it pretty right, over 8,000 members, which is pretty darn awesome. So please, if you make comments, ask questions, and also, if you haven't done yet, get to YouTube and subscribe to Let's Talk Stroke on my YouTube channel, and Ralph will talk about his channel and what he's doing as well. But we want to hear probably a good snippet about his stroke. So good morning, Christopher. So let's go ahead and get started.
Telling me to dance, taking a chance. Telling me to dance.
Okay, good morning, Zane, Brad. Hope you're having a great time out there, and thank you for being here, you guys. So let's go ahead and bring on Ralph, and we'll chit chat with Ralph. And any questions, make sure ask questions, make comments, and we'll go ahead and get started. So good morning, Ralph.
Good morning.
How are you?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing, Jerry?
I'm doing well. Yeah, just another day. And hopefully you can see the comments. Jessica, nice to see you here on the right side. And Tom, which you know, that's salute. So I love to greet all the viewers out there, even if I don't know you. Again, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Let's Talk Stroke. And you have your own YouTube channel, correct?
Yeah, it's Ralph Preston Video, all one word. Fairly easy to remember, kind of like Let's Talk Stroke. And one thing you forgot in your intro is that another reason you do this show, or at least a side effect of the show, is since you had aphasia, it helps you with your language skills, which I told you the other day, but I'm going to tell everybody out there that over the 3 or so years I've known you, I've even though that was from 9 to 12 years out, I've still seen a lot of improvement in your language. So it's a good therapy tool for you as well.
Absolutely. And I really appreciate that, because right, when I look back at my old videos, wow, you know, when they're recorded, thinking, wow, I sounded like kind of a heel out there just mumbling around. And but you know, it's okay. I should mention that. That's right. Perfect.
Well, I did. So there you go.
All right. Oh boy. And Mike Peters from South Wales, nice to see you here. And Robin and salute. I know you're out there in Tom's phone. But anyway, yeah. So you know, for those of people, you've got over 8,000 members in your Stroke Buddies group. Wow.
Well, I've been at it for a little over 6 years, and there have been times where we've done some recruiting, intentional recruiting.
Oh, right.
And I guess I'm always recruiting in the sense that I answer a lot of questions everywhere. I remember 20 groups. I'd say I probably am relatively active in 10 of them. The largest ones usually, because you can get to the most amount of people that way, which is what you and I are trying to do.
Right.
So I ask questions a lot. I point people to if I have about 120 exercise videos on my YouTube channel, things I did to get better in my recovery. And a few of them I didn't do, but they're well known, and I've learned them from various PTs and OTs over the years. So
Right.
I can oftentimes answer a question with like some words and a video, and then they're on my YouTube channel, and then I've got a thing saying join us at Stroke Buddies in the description. So, and sometimes I actually, depending on the group, I actually say join us over at Stroke Buddies.
Right, right.
I also run the Young Stroke Survivors Support Group for the Medical University of South Carolina Stroke Recovery Research Center. That's a mouthful, isn't it?
That is. I don't know if I can remember that.
Okay. I said it so many times I can say it like that now. Anyway, and there's about 14,500 people in that group. I've been adminning it since it was about 1,500, and my group was like 0. I seeded my group with some stroke professionals and a few friends, about 25, and about 10 of them left in the first week.
Yeah, that happens. I mean,
well, yeah, I stuck them in there, and they didn't want to be in there, so that's fine.
Right, right.
You don't really want anybody in your group that doesn't want to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe just go back just a second before your stroke. I mean, 2008, you had yours, hemorrhagic stroke, and you were kind of like the guru. I think I have it. I just have to bring one up here. This one right here. This is what you did.
That's actually post-stroke.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But I mean, that's what I did pre-stroke. Yeah, that's me and Jimmy Wayne about 5 years ago. So I was about 10 years post-stroke at that point. I'm about to be 15. Yeah, and I sent you that picture because one of the things I did was I returned to the work I was doing. I was working as a video TD and also a videographer and producer, and so that was I volunteered with Terra Hall Home for Boys, and they brought Jimmy Wayne in. He's was a foster child, and he advocates for. It's a tough transition from when you turn 18 as a foster child to no support, kind of like us when we get kicked out of physical therapy. So that's his cause, and Terra Hall Home for Boys brought him in for their 50th anniversary, and I videotaped a concert that he did, a bunch of B-roll of him, an interview that I was doing there. So I use it to basically, Jerry, this, but we'll tell the audience, we're in the business of providing hope, if you will. That's what groups do, and that's what, people who, like I'm going to introduce you to Anna and Ryan Teal. And I know Ryan who's just about 2.5 years out on his aphasia, is going to find you inspirational.
Wow.
So we don't want to provide false hope, but we kind of want to let people know in some ways that there's light at the end of the tunnel. So that's one of my light at the end of the tunnel shots. I've got a couple of me on my bicycle too. And that's inspiring, I hope, to some people. I know when I looked at those things, I thought to myself, okay, if they can do it, I can do it too. Wow, how about that?
Yeah, that came right up here.
I like Restream. I wish I could do that on Zoom. Just call up the things as we talk about them.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing stuff. But just to go back 1 second, what was there a cause for your stroke? I know you worked your tail off.
Yeah, stupidity.
Really?
Yeah, my stupidity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's a good idea to blame your stroke on anything or anybody, and I didn't blame myself. I certainly wasn't going to blame God. I thought the whole blame game was a real slippery slope, and I tried to stay away from it. But ultimately, it was my fault. I'm an old hippie boy. I've been a vegetarian for over 50 years. So Mr. Natural decided that he would deal with his high blood pressure naturally. And, to cut Mr. Natural some slack, he did start running. I always stayed in shape, but I did start exercising 5 days a week, and I dropped about 25 pounds and about 20 points off my blood pressure, but it wasn't enough.
Wow.
Okay, I'm going to get up on my soapbox here for just 1 second.
It's okay.
And that is, I had a stroke at 140/90. That's where it turns red.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
not in the red. I occasionally got 145/95, 150/98, those kind of things. But you can have a stroke on the edge of the red or barely red. Actually, some of the charts have now lowered. They start the danger zone 10 points earlier now.
Yeah.
So I was trying to control my blood pressure naturally, and maybe I should have stayed off my exercise bike. I don't know. I had my stroke on my exercise bike. 15 seconds left to go on a 45-minute ride, and my legs didn't want to go around. I thought, that's funny.
Yeah.
It said 15 seconds left. I'll get off. So I got off, and I took one step. I raised my foot up about 8 inches off the floor, and I went, whoa, that's too high. So I said, maybe not so high next time. And I dragged it, and I lifted high again. I 2 or 3 steps, I knew what had happened. When I took a glass of water and put it to my lips, and my lips were numb, I went, okay. And I called my doctor, said I just had a stroke. He said, put your pants on, put your coffee down, and go to the hospital. I said, my pants are on. I don't drink coffee. I jumped in the car, actually walked in the hospital. And a couple hours later, they said they were pretty late. Good thing I had a hemorrhagic stroke because they were outside the TPA window. I said,
Yeah.
We're going to take you down and get a CAT scan. I said, I'll jump up on the gurney.
Ain't gonna work.
And no, I couldn't stand up at that point. So obviously, I continued to lose things. And while I was in the hospital, I guess I was bleeding for some period of time. They never did anything. They didn't have to go in or anything. I just stopped bleeding.
Wow.
They took a CAT scan a couple months later and said everything's good. So
Wow.
I haven't worried about it since. I tell people, find out the cause of your stroke, do something if you can, because you can't always. Do something about it if you can, because you can't always. And then kind of pretty much put it out of your mind.
Yeah.
That does not work for people who have multiple AVMs because they're like time bombs in your head.
Yeah, exactly.
With one of those.
Yeah. Wow.
So.
It's quite the story, but it's shocking that your doc said drive in. I mean, get to the hospital with a.
Yeah, they say that you should call 911 because they can do things on the way. And we didn't do that. It was like 5 minutes from the hospital, 8 minutes from the hospital. So I just got in the car and drove. So I was there quicker, but I live in a small town where they really don't. I mean, they kept me at a small town hospital for about 5 hours and then shipped me to Asheville. If I'd known my brain was going to stop bleeding, well, I didn't know anything when I went to the hospital. I didn't know squat, except I'm pretty sure I had a stroke.
Wow.
Hindsight's always 20/20. I would have been better off to just drive to Asheville. I would have got there. I had my stroke at 10:20. I would have been there by noon instead of like 6 p.m.
Right.
With a CAT scan. All he did was do a CAT scan and ship me off. But you never know what to do. So you just, you listen to medical professionals and try and do the right thing. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's how I had my stroke, kind of. I say stupidity and make a point of it, but you don't really know what you're messing with. I didn't really think, that I could have a stroke over this.
Right. Absolutely.
But here I am.
That's right.
I did.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was not thinking because I obviously wasn't thinking.
But you knew what a stroke was?
I knew what a stroke was, and I knew I had one. I guess I knew a couple of those fast signs, or now B-fast signs, but I didn't know much about them. But pretty much starting the day I had my stroke, well, I'm a lifelong learner and a very curious person, and very intense and very detail-oriented. So the day of my stroke, pretty much I started learning all I can about stroke. And I preach a few things to the people that want to listen to me. And one is learn everything about learn everything that you can about stroke and the brain, because it will
Right.
serve you in your recovery. Be your own best patient advocate, because the cavalry is not coming and there ain't nobody else out there looking for you, except maybe in your case, Jerry, your wife, or in my case, I was married at the time. But the healthcare system isn't looking out for you. So you have to look out for yourself.
Absolutely, 100%. And I do see on the Jerry Chapman there on the comments, he's asking you, do you have any after effects? If you on your right side of the computer, you'll see the comments.
Okay, this is an editing computer, so they're really teeny for me. I have to have a laptop, and I have to have a full HD screen to do editing on it, and my eyesight's not what it used to be. Not because of the stroke, but just because I'm an old fart.
Yeah, OLD.
Lasting effects. Okay. Well, physical deficits. I can fool most people. I walk around the grocery store and such, and nobody stops me or asks me or looks at me funny or asks me what's wrong. I've actually done video shoots with people all day where I semi-limped around, especially towards the end when I get tired.
Right.
They didn't seem to notice. So I have a video called Best Walking, and when I show it to people, they can't see the little teeny hip dip that I see. But I trained myself to, I analyze videos for people and sometimes suggest exercise, although it's almost always upper leg weakness, marching and squats. Can't do too much marching, can't do too many squats. So I had no cognitive issues, no short-term memory loss, no cognitive function, and I didn't decide to. Somebody asked me that, and I thought, well, how the hell would you know? I'm not as smart as I used to be, and now I know it. No, you wouldn't know if you had cognitive issues, unless short-term memory. I'm talking like real cognitive thinking issues. So, let's see, what kinds of long-lasting issues do I have? I have paresthesia in my affected hand.
Right.
It works pretty well. Let me get them both on the screen.
Wow.
So, but it feels numb. It feels like I've been sitting on it for a couple hours. And so, yeah, it works pretty well. I jumped on my hand, and I recommend that people jump on their hand. I met a fifth person the other day who jumped on their hand and came back before their shoulder and before they're walking, like mine did. So there's something to it. I don't quite know what. I don't quite know how to know about the science behind it. But now that I've found 5 people, I'm going to be asking neurologists and such. So back to his question. I also have paresthesia on my face. Feels like I just came from the dentist on the left side.
Right.
It started about where it is now, went all the way out almost to the back of my head, and came back over about a year period. People are always trying to get rid of, tingling or numbness or whatever. And I always come on and say, well, I learned to forget about it. And they don't like the answer. Well, how long did it take? I say, 3, 4, 5 years. And of course, they're 6 months out, and they want to hear like 6 months in one day, so it'll be tomorrow for them. You know how it goes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I have some lasting issues. When I sleep, I sometimes have jumpy leg or cramp, like not quite cramps, but it's not like I don't know I had a stroke.
Right.
It's funny because I forget about the paresthesia, but now that we're talking about it, I'm really hyper aware of it on my face and my hand. But in about a minute, it'll go away again. Just since I somehow learned to tune it out.
Right.
So I've walked as much as 6 miles. I hiked up the Appalachian Trail, 1,500 feet to the top of a mountain in about 5 months. But I got back on my bicycle, but I can't do some of the things that I used to do. I used to like to run, and I probably could learn to run if I spent a whole year, like my entire life doing it. I guess I got into helping other stroke survivors and put it on the back burner and never returned to it.
Right. There is, let's see, Marilyn Tyler, nice to see you. And Brooke Allen is asking, Charlie horse? When you talk, what question mark?
Yeah,
Charlie.
like
That's a
yeah,
tough one to
kind
say.
of like that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, some people have like jumpy leg syndrome, without having had a stroke. It was like, well, I had spasticity in my arm and hand and leg, and I got rid of it all pretty much. I have none in my hand and arm and shoulder. Actually, John Loomis can see it, or I can see it. If I go up the steps with no hands or something, the shoulder will do a little thing. It's just my brain getting nervous about not having anything to hold on to. And you have to be John Loomis or me, or look really, really close to see it. So I pretty much got rid of all the spasticity. I'll answer the question now before somebody asks it. How did you do that? I did that by going through specific range of motion exercises, and I found as I could go through the entire range, because you can't in the beginning. I couldn't straighten my arm.
No.
Yeah. I couldn't straighten my elbow. Now I can. So I found as I got back the entire range of motion, it started to disappear, but it disappeared as I built up strength through the entire range of motion. Once I got the range of motion, I didn't drop that exercise.
Good for
I
you.
might have added a light weight. I'm not a big believer in weights. I'm a big believer in repetition, but I might have added a light weight or some way to make it more difficult. And I kept doing it, and I kept trying to build up those muscles and those connections, and eventually it pretty much all went away. But sometimes at the end of the day, sometimes I feel it in my leg a little bit, or at night, often in the middle of the night, and it's just kind of like, I just want to stretch. It just, it feels like, but if you point your toe too much or whatever, you can actually cause a Charlie horse, like she was asking.
That's true.
So be careful about that.
Yeah, I mind the same thing. I just want to bring up a comment here from Christopher. Says, thanks to you. I was a videographer. This inspires me.
Well, I mean, here's the deal. This might sound unbelievable, but anybody that sends me a message, I send them a message back. You send me a second message, I send you a message back. I do it pretty much forever.
Yeah.
And, so it was a she?
What was
if he or she wants to send me a message and talk about videography and
Christopher, yeah.
And getting back to it, then I'd be happy to do that. I actually have, somebody asked me how many people I coached or interacted with on Messenger. I said, I don't know, a couple hundred.
Yeah.
But one day I was bored and I counted, and I went back 1 year and there were 650.
Yeah, it's trying to keep track of it.
So I stay pretty busy. If you ask me a question, I'll answer it.
Yeah.
Crazy.
We've been going back and forth and very responsive, So if you do want to get a hold of, okay, so Christopher said he will. He'll get a hold of you. But well, yeah, very responsive.
Do it quite as fast as I do sometimes. If I see it, I do it, because then I don't have to write it down. I'll get you your answer, and then then you can send me another message, and I'll need to respond to that.
Exactly.
But I was going to connect you to Ryan and Anna Teal, the aphasia books folks, and I noticed I have for about 2 weeks I've been saying that I'm going to connect Anna, but I'm going to do it today. I have 7 emails. 7 people I'm going to connect her with. So
yeah, that's good. That's good.
I tell people, if I don't do it today, don't worry. I will eventually get around to it. I actually write it down. So I try and answer anything anybody asks me, actually.
Yeah. And it's Anna, Virginia, nice seeing you guys out here. Appreciate. And again, ask questions, you guys. And I'd love to talk about, even if there's like stroke buddies. That's a big deal. I mean, that's like a full-time job doing all this, I
work between 40 and 80 hours a week.
Yeah.
I know how long 80 hours a week is.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically, it's basically 11 or 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. Those are rare weeks. I typically spend, I would guess, I don't know, 50, 60. I don't really count.
Yeah. Let's bring this picture up here.
See, I treat everything like I'm a plodder like you, Jerry. We talked a little bit about this. So I can put on the blinders and just plod. That's how I answer questions. That's how I got better. So I don't question what I'm doing.
Right.
I just keep doing it. I decided a long time ago this is a good thing. I don't feel like it's a calling or anything. I just feel like a lot of people. In fact, when I started this, I thought I was the only one. And I've come to realize that I would guess about a third of all stroke survivors are good candidates for what I call pay it forward stroke survivors.
Yeah.
In fact, I have a group called Pay It Forward.
Yes.
It's got a few members. I'm not I need to be active in it and get it going. And the point of the group would be for people like you and me to exchange Facebook tips, streaming tips,
absolutely,
things like that that make us more effective. But I was shocked to find how many people are good candidates for Pay It Forward stroke survivors. And now I secretly, don't tell anybody, oh, I'm talking on live television. I secretly, basically, I pick people that I think would be good Pay It Forward stroke survivors. Already got an indication they want to help people, and I'll encourage them and I'll help them along. I don't say anything much about it, but I'm kind of pushing them along if I can.
It's a good thing, and you know what?
Yeah, it is a good thing. There can't be too many yous and me's out there.
Absolutely, and I want to bring a picture up here that really is I'm going to bring this picture up just a second. Cheryl, nice. Good morning. And stroke support group, which is Yvonne. Nice to see you. I appreciate it. But I want to bring this picture up because I think this is, well, let's just bring it up.
Okay. Got me wondering. Oh, okay. You like that, huh?
I think it's a great picture. It really means a lot.
Well, it took me 6 months or a year to find that picture.
Really? Wow. Keep
I made the graphic.
Wow.
Yeah, I used to say, get up every morning and push the rock uphill, and then somebody said it's like eating an elephant. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Yeah.
And then when I interviewed Brian Harris, he said push an elephant. So I switched it to push an elephant rather than eat an elephant. Not because I'm a vegetarian. It just seems nicer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and pushing the rock uphill I still say that. It comes out of my mouth because I said that for the first number of years. So I'll just segue there because I started saying it when I started helping people. When did I start helping other stroke survivors? I'm not sure because it didn't flip like a switch. Actually, when I was in the rehab hospital, two of my friends later said that I was talking in the rehab hospital about helping people already. So that was less than 22 days after my stroke. I don't have no recollection of that. I recall most everything about my stroke in hospital stay, but I don't remember that for some reason. But there were two of them, and I told both of them, I don't remember that, but it kind of sounds like me, doesn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Here's there's a couple people here that,
sure.
You know, Marilyn, Ralph helped me with AFO, and that AFO is awesome. Yeah. Flint Rehab made this product. I got another Stormy, another stroke survivor I worked with. I had some funds left over from a fundraiser, and she wanted to fit me, and I was a little short, so I kicked in, and I don't remember, $100 or something. And I called them up to order it. I tried to order it online. I was having trouble. I called them up to order. I got the vice president of development and sales on the phone, so he offered to give it to me. I said, well, I have the money. I'll let you give me something else. So Marilyn was trying to transition off of an AFO. Right.
I don't know if I helped her with getting her a Flex AFO. She did a lot of the work. I don't know if I should count her in helping her get off the AFO, but they terrified me for a long time because I'm not a physical therapist. So the other thing I didn't say was not learn everything you can about the brain and stroke, be your best patient advocate, and start working on being your own physical therapist, because you're going to run out of insurance.
Yes.
If people get better at home, you're going to have to take over your recovery program. So start it now. Don't wait until they tell you that they're graduating you. By the way, that's a euphemism for don't let the screen door hit you on the butt while the insurance company kicks you out.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Before I miss this one, Jessica's asking, do you struggle with fatigue?
No.
Good.
You're not going to like this answer, but I was afraid of. I saw people in the rehab hospital that were like, seemed to me to be sleeping away their life. Now, I've learned a lot about stroke. So I know that there are people that have to take naps. I know that neurofatigue is real. I'm not discounting those things. I learn things and I incorporate them into my philosophy and what I say, but a lot of my recovery was, in the way it happened, was responsible a lot for the way I think about things. So I was really concerned about taking naps or sleeping. And you're not going to like this either, or some people won't. I actually got up at 7 o'clock in the morning, did 10 to 12 hours of physical therapy every hour on the hour till 7 p.m. And then I'd sit around and watch the sun go down and play with my hammer on the porch doing wrist exercises. So it went beyond that. And I did about 50 minutes on, and I'd lay down like King Tut on my bed. And I told my wife if she ever found me asleep to wake me up. I let my brain, somewhere I read that after you exercise and make connections in stroke, that it continues to happen for 10 or 15 minutes after you stop exercising or doing the exercise. So it was a way for me to let those connections keep happening and give my brain a rest. But then I'd get back up and do it again. I walked every other hour, and I did either hand or shoulder, every other hour. So I did a little more walking until I could walk pretty well. And then I switched and did more. My shoulder was last. My hand was first. Hand and walking were first, elbow second, shoulder took me over a year.
Really?
I was walking 3 miles in 4 months, but it took me well over a year, 15 months to get my shoulder to where I could go all the way extended.
That's incredible.
So back to fatigue, I basically pushed myself. I found that this has always worked for me pre-stroke. I would say I would take a job that I didn't know how to do, and I'd figure out how to do it. I always have pushed myself a little bit. So I'm a videographer, and I had a few jobs, so I didn't cancel them.
Right.
I showed up. The land trust asked me I framed pictures for them. They asked me to frame some pictures a couple months out. I wasn't sure I had the dexterity in my left hand. Taking pieces of double-sided tape, 24 inches long, and sticking them down in the right place and stuff.
How'd you do it?
But I said, sure, I'll do it. It took me about twice as long as normal because I'd done time and motion studies on everything to figure out how to price my stuff.
Right.
But I did it, and then it came time to take them to him, and I went to the land trust, and I looked, and I had 2 framed pictures in my hand and 24 steps. It was one of those old buildings that was up like 16 feet to the second floor.
Right.
So I'm looking at those steps, I'm going, I'm screwed. I said, no, you can do it. You can do it. The railing's there. You can drop one of the paintings and grab the railing if you have to. So I put the railing on my right, my strong side, and I went up about 4 months without touching the railing. And then I knew I could do it, but my brain, I believe, I'm jumping around here, but fear is one of the biggest things that holds us back.
Yeah.
I still had this fear of steps and not holding on. So I worked on it. And what I always do is first you death grip it, then you slide your hand over it, then you hover your hand over the top of it. And then the biggest step is putting your hand by your side, because it's a half a second to get it back up there where you can grab it.
Yeah.
And the brain says, don't do that, Ralph. Don't do that, Ralph. You need it up there where you can use it. Don't put it by your side.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody out there knows, like when you try and walk with a single point cane instead of a quad cane, You get those little voices that say,
Wow, right on your
and they're important because early on in the stroke, that's your brain protecting you from doing stupid things. But as we get better, they're really hard to get rid of. Also, bad habits I found are don't do anything the wrong. Well, in walking, you have to do lots of things the wrong way, not the wrong way, but you have to accept certain things and then learn how to get rid of them. And I found if you can, it's always better to learn how to do something the right way than to have to unlearn it later.
Absolutely, 100%. Let's see.
Yeah, we got some more questions. I mean, I could talk for probably 40 hours straight, but
well, let's see.
I'd rather.
Oh, we get time. No, let's bring out this here. I mean, that's post-stroke.
Yeah,
that's wonderful.
That's about 3 years ago. Second to last shoot. I have a cameraman, but I happen to be carrying the camera across my backyard. And yeah, I have the camera in my left affected hand. That's a $15,000 camera, so you want to be pretty sure you're not going to drop it. And I actually find that people say, "Oh, we had a stroke. Let me take the tripod." Well, actually, I found that having something in both hands, it's not a balance thing. I mean, I felt this way before my stroke. I just like having something in both hands, about the same weight. So I'm carrying both. I think my cameraman was doing something else. That's why I had him. I think I just right before that, he just filmed me. I had somebody talk about getting up off the ground, and I said something like, "I can get up off the ground without touching anything."
Right. Yeah.
So I wanted to see that, so I shot it. So
that's a good thing. I never compare any stroke. They're all different, as you probably all know. But Yvonne here from Athens, Greece says, "You were fortunate. I pushed myself and my body would answer with a seizure."
Would answer with what?
A seizure.
Well, okay, so back to the fatigue thing. I had these video jobs. One of them was standing up doing a thing for Zonta on human trafficking, a volunteer thing.
Wow.
Standing up 8 hours behind a tripod. I didn't think I could do it. So I went, but I didn't cancel it. I went and I told them what was going on, and I put a chair there, and I actually only sat down in the chair 3 times during the day. And I felt stupid, well, because they had 10 o'clock coffee break and stuff. So I was standing behind the camera for an hour and a half at a time. I pushed myself. Not everybody can do this. So I never took a nap. I pushed myself. And then in July, I did this thing with a camera a front porch where we recorded older folks who'd grown up on the farm without electricity. I actually did 110 interviews that I needed to do something with. But it was in the mountains, and it was unusual because that day it was 96 degrees, and it was predicted to be that. And we were out in the sun. The front porch has shade, but I'm out in the sun with the camera.
Yeah, post-stroke.
I thought, I'm not going to make this, but I did make it. And I remember at the end of that day thinking, maybe I've turned the corner on this fatigue thing. So
yeah, absolutely.
I need to tell everybody I'm a real hard ass.
Yeah, there you go.
So, I mean, not everybody, I recognize that not everybody's going to, do 10 or 12 hours of physical therapy every day. Not everybody can push themselves. Maybe some people shouldn't. And your point about comparing strokes, it's a really bad idea. I don't have any group rules because people will want to break rules, so I don't have any, so you can't break them. Actually, I have one written down that says, act like an adult and you'll be treated like an adult.
On Stroke Buddies? Group,
That's the only rule.
Yeah. The good I mean, that's true.
Well, there's some people that go read the rules and just go break them because they're contrary. So
yeah.
Because there are rules in young stroke, and I get them in there. So
yeah. The stroke.
Anyway,
good morning, Kevin.
Right. If I see that, well, we have somebody in Stroke Buddies that learned how to run again at 17 years out, okay? And she's about to run a half marathon. And somebody came in and said, well, you must not have had a real stroke. Ouch.
Yeah, that's fighting words, right?
Yeah, those are fighting words. I let him have it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I behave like a good boy and a good admin most of the
Sure.
time, but that's one thing. You just don't, particularly don't diminish somebody else's stroke because you have no idea what level of stroke they
Right.
had, and you have absolutely no idea about their ability or in some cases inability to deal with it.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
that's just like a real no-no. It gets you nowhere.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean,
Hey, Jerry, this would be a joke. You ever notice that every single person in every single group had a massive stroke?
I know. I mean, I'm
No
starting.
one describes their stroke without the word massive.
Yeah.
About 5% of people do. I
Yeah.
shouldn't do that. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I had a mind. Yeah.
I apologize to all the people out there that had a massive stroke. I basically consider all strokes massive.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's like, you get your life turned upside down. I'm not going to do it with my smoothie, but it's like, somebody takes your life and turns it upside down and shakes it.
Yeah. I mean, I set my saying, I know some people may not like, but I always say stroke is not for the weak. And I mean, maybe some people, but I just don't think so. Because I mean,
The old Betty Davis quote, getting old is not for sissies.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly right.
No. Yeah. I'm not a big fan of the term warrior because it's overused, but
Yeah.
and I correct people if they use victim. I go, sorry, I'm not a victim.
Yeah.
I'm a survivor, and I tend to think the reason I object to that is I'm a big believer in. So I learned how to walk. I walked in my driveway. I went to physical therapy, but I kept trying to walk farther, and I didn't have good form. I had to start over again.
Sure.
Or I did start over again. I actually asked my PT whether form or distance was more important. He said distance, and the PTA chased me out into the parking lot after my session was over and said, I can't say this in front of him, but he's wrong. Form is more important. So I called back to the rehab hospital, started over again with my walking. They said, walk on your heels and your toes if you can. And I could at that point. It was about 5 months out. And so I came up with power walk. So I walked on my heels 1 lap, regular 1 lap, toes 1 lap, regular 1 lap, on and on and on.
Absolutely.
But when I walked, I did a modified power walk with my hands, making sure I kept that affected arm up level with the other one because it was part of the whole hand and shoulder therapy. As I did that, I called that pattern walking, a stroke pattern walking. I was trying to walk my best pattern. As I did that endlessly, every other hour, all day, every day, it occurred to me that there are 2 kinds of brain patterning. One is the type I'm doing where you're making connections with the muscles after a stroke. But the other one is what you tell yourself.
Yeah.
What you tell yourself in life is really important. William Lowe and I just did a thing on acceptance and attitude part 2. And we talked pretty much about acceptance and getting to a good attitude. So I talked about staying there, because if you don't get stuck and you don't get depressed, you don't have to get unstuck or undepressed. So, and it's not always possible. I mean, I had bad days. I just tried. When I had a bad day, my biggest thing was don't have a bad day tomorrow. Don't string a bunch of these together because you're really getting a pit if you do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Try to bounce back. So, I was talking about things like positive affirmations, and, you have to believe. You have to believe in yourself.
Yes.
One of the types of therapy, the way I got my hand back, was mental imagery or visualization. They told me to stare at my hand until I could move it, and it finally did move a little bit, like an eighth of an inch.
Interesting.
So I showed them at therapy, and I was still in the hospital at that time. They went, great. And I went, okay. That's the reaction I had when they said, stare at your hand until it moves. So I thought, this is crazy, but I don't have a plan, so I guess I better there.
Yeah.
Well, it worked, and it's a legitimate form of therapy. It's called mental imagery or mental practice. You visualize in your mind that you can do it. Well, that's true also of anything in life, stroke or no stroke. If you believe in yourself and you try and visualize and hold a positive thought, you're much more likely to be able to do something. So that's why I don't like the word victim, because I think the language you use around yourself is important. And if you use victim, are you thinking about yourself as being a victim?
Yeah.
Are you more likely to be a victim?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think possibly.
Yeah.
And the simple way to answer the question is just don't use that word.
Right.
Just don't think that way.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. I've never used victim. I hear some people say that, or I've been in the grocery store, and I used to years when I first had my or whatever, and someone said, "Oh, you're a stroke victim." I never ever since then. This was years ago.
I'll correct them in the grocery store.
Oh yeah,
If
absolutely.
I don't know them, I'll say, thank you for noticing, and I appreciate the kindness. And
Yeah.
we try to think of ourselves as survivors, not victims. So
Right. Yeah, and that's a nice way to say it, right? I mean,
I got news for a whole bunch of people out there.
right.
There are a lot of people that think that they go to the grocery store and everybody's staring at them.
Yeah.
The only person staring at you is a 5-year-old kid, because he can't make sense out of it, and it's okay that he stares at you.
Yeah.
I think a lot of folks, I'm sure there are people out there who've had somebody stare at them, but
Oh yeah.
I've been in the grocery store many, many times, and I've walked crappy, and now I walk okay. And I just think that some of the stuff we do to ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
What if
Absolutely.
people are staring at you? Who cares?
Yeah, I have thick skin. I just get over it.
Same with, people who ask you if you're okay, but don't really understand and don't know how to process it. I was just always nice to them. In some way, in their own way, they're trying to reach out to you and be nice. So, I see a lot of people go, they don't understand. I get tired of answering that question. Well, I didn't, because I don't get tired of having people that are concerned about me. Whether they have the ability to express it the way I want them to or not, they're still trying in their own way.
Right. And
As human beings, we're all flawed, and we do the same thing to our friends.
yeah, I look at people when they're walking. We talk about the grocery store. I look at them too and think, we don't know what they're going through. They can be going through a real tough time, and I want to, so I always am nice to everybody just because of that.
I'm laughing because when I go grocery shopping, I can tell the difference between somebody who had a stroke and somebody who just got out of an ankle cast.
Yeah.
I'm always looking at people's gaits. It's like a curse.
Yeah.
Because, well, like I said, I've had probably at least 100 people send me videos of them walking, and I'll, say, pretty good heel strike, but you're still not bending your knee enough, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, maybe this one, right?
I'm always analyzing gait, so I go to I can't turn it off. I go to the grocery store. I actually walked up to a guy a couple months ago and said, "Hey, I'm a stroke survivor too." And he said, "Oh wow, you could tell?" I said, "Yeah, you're doing really well, but I could still tell, because I coach stroke survivors, and I could see some upper leg weakness, do some squats and marching." No, I didn't say that.
Yeah.
But that's what I say to about 95% of the people that send me videos.
Yeah.
Well, because it takes, you can't spend a month building up your upper leg strength. You can march all you want and do all the squats you want, 12 hours a day for a month, and you still won't be there.
Right. Hamstrings. That's a big.
I don't think 12 hours a day of that would do you any good. It seems to me to be more of a long-term thing. Right. And everybody out there, no, I'm not a PT. I've spent well, I'm going to jump back to something I was going to say before. So after I got out of the hospital, I had a couple of people find what I was doing. I started shopping a video project, and everybody really liked my ideas. And the better I did, the more they're interested they were in talking to me about my ideas. So I kept doing better and better. That's why. Oh, you put that thing about the gold medals. Well, I lived in a small town. I was the only one in my age group that showed up. I did ride my bicycle 15 miles, but that's why I won 3 gold medals. And I went on to the States, where I came in last, except I was the last by less than 10 seconds. And I could have ridden harder. If I'd known, I would have come in next to last. But the point is, I won my category. I did the photo ops and everything. So I had people who are hospitals and stuff who wanted to talk to me, the better I did. And I started getting people asking me to give motivational speeches. So I suppose that was the start of helping other people.
Right.
And at one of those speeches, I met some of the advocacy group, and they asked me to help them. I started doing video PSAs and announcements for them, started running a stroke group. Couldn't get anybody to come. Had one gal that came, who's the person that brought her did PT with, and she was going on vacation she's going to help her daughter with her first grandson, and she asked me to fill in for 3 weeks, and I said, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm willing to. And when she came back, I said, if we both kept doing it, Kelly would get twice as much. So I started helping people locally, and I've ended up helping 14 people locally and 2 people in Tulsa, Oklahoma in person.
Nice.
Like in Tulsa last year, I spent 11 days, and I went to both Brooke and Story's house every single day, every one of those 11 days, and worked with them.
It's so nice you do that. I mean, because it's so important. People that don't have insurance, they think I think they get complacent and think, I'm not going to do anything. And that, not everybody, but that's a big part of it.
They think they don't know what they're doing, so they don't do anything. I mean, too much boldness can be foolishness, but it's good to have a little bit of boldness in you for this thing. I'm not here to toot my own horn, but say for Brooke, that was life-changing in that I put up she had a 18-foot closet, and I put up a 16-foot, I used a hand railing for steps. Wow. I put up a 16-foot parallel bar, like a barre in I think that's how you say it, in a dance studio. And she started walking up and down, and she's continued to, and she got out of the wheelchair, and they started walking her with a hemi walker at work, I always call therapy work, at therapy.
Yeah.
I looked at it as work. I looked at my recovery as my job. I said, okay,
it is.
This is my job for the next year. So that was one thing. I also taught her how to get in and out of the wheelchair, and got her exercise mat so she could get down and do core work. So she's been doing core work and walking in the closet, and the results are showing up at physical therapy. They switched her from a frame walker to a hemi walker. I don't quite know why. I'm not sure I agree with it, but I'm not the PT.
Right.
I don't like them because they make you lean to that side. I'd much rather see somebody with a quad or a single point cane than the hemi walker. To me, hemi walker is something you give somebody with no hand in the very beginning, because that's the only way that they're only walker they can deal with.
Yes, and that I hate subject. Wow, changing the subject. Lynn's asking you, where are you?
I'm in South Carolina, and when people join my group in Charlotte, Raleigh, Columbia, Charleston, I'll sometimes write to them. I've thought about what I'd really like to do. I have a nonprofit that I haven't funded. I'd really love to be funded, by contributions somehow, or have I'd love to meet a billionaire who wants to do something about stroke.
Yeah.
But because I'd love to travel.
Well, here
I would love to buy or have Winnebago give me a 24-foot RV or something, and throw all my camera gear in it. I got plans to build a 30-foot swing set for walking that could be taken apart and thrown in there. I'd love to have a traveling circus with a video camera and me, and I'd love to go around and help people in person with their recoveries, shoot interviews while I'm in a city, look up the neurologist, shoot interviews with a neurologist, and basically travel the country, help people, and generate video content.
Well, yeah. Here's Bryce is not. He's in the Beaufort County. I'm probably saying it wrong. Representing here, North Carolina.
Okay, we said it right, because it's Beaufort, South Carolina, and Beaufort, North Carolina. You lucked into it, though. Most people don't know that.
Yeah.
So, Beaufort's about a couple hours north of me, and Beaufort's about 3 hours south of me.
All right. Well, there you go, Bryce. And by the way, nice to see you. It's been a while.
Well, I'm serious about anybody that wants to,
send a message, right?
Send me a message.
Yeah, and also I always say is if you're gonna send a message to Ralph, make sure because there's a lot of like scammers or well you can vent them yourself, but say that you saw him on this show. Just I'm Bryce. Yeah, and I saw you on the show, and I want you to help me with one thing, or maybe we can meet sometime or something, or even if they talk to you, in person like this, and
If you look for me on Facebook to send me a message, I'm the one with I have a sunflower photograph I took with Cyrillic saying "Glory to Ukraine" for my profile picture, and then my cover picture is on a documentary. There's 32 people lined up around some people picking up trash, and we're working on an environmental project on I live in Murrells Inlet, and we actually still eat fish and oysters and things out of the inlet. Nowhere around in Beaufort and Beaufort aren't. Yeah, Beaufort, South Carolina is, because I went there to shoot single point oysters one time, and the water's clean there. But a lot of places up and down the coast are already spoiled. We're trying to keep it from being spoiled. So you'll see 32 people we interviewed, and the sunflower with Cyrillic on it.
Great picture here. There's what's this? This is another. I mean, I love these quotes here.
Oh yeah, I sometimes say things. Look at the date on that. 2009, 1 year after my stroke. Now, I didn't take that picture or make the meme till later. That's my friend Kelly in her beach wheelchair.
Ah, nice.
And I picked that picture because I don't believe in stealing anybody's dignity. So that's just, you don't really know who she is. She's obviously in a wheelchair and enjoying.
Yeah, you can see that.
She owned that wheelchair. They're about $3,500. Stainless steel. And the whole thing floats down, so you can take somebody in the water and lay it down, and they can lay in the water with the waves going over them.
Absolutely. And here's a comment that I just want to bring up here, and let me bring it here.
I answer that because people always say, "What's the deal with that wheelchair?"
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But here, Josh here. Nice to see Josh. Thank you for joining us here. I'm relearning the mechanics of walking. Fear of falling is a big challenge. I in the beginning, completely. Or don't trip over a carpet like me and break your hip. Just thought I'd throw it out there. But,
okay, well, I have some simple things that I do to this day. And I'm not paranoid about anything. I do these outside of stroke world, but I definitely do it in stroke world. Okay, basically, whenever you walk, don't be getting the keys out of your pocket. Don't be looking at your phone. Pay attention to the cat or whatever. It's a time when you really need to focus on what you're doing, or you're going to trip over the edge of the carpet. Or, I broke my rule about a month ago, and I was looking at my phone or doing something, and I tripped. I didn't fall, but I tripped over the edge of the carpet. And I put the phone away, and I said, "There's a reason you have that rule."
That's it.
The other thing I do, I can stand up and take my shirt off. I never do anything where my eyes are covered, where I'm not seated.
Still to this day.
Seated, like sometimes I'll find I have one more slug of water before I go to bed, and I'm standing up. I can stand up and drink it. I sit back down. And same with eyes. Anytime, we're much more dependent on our vision post-stroke. So don't take that T-shirt off standing up, unless you're working on that. And if you're doing that, then have a grab bar next to you.
Yeah.
In all my videos, you'll see if I don't mention it, safety, I'll put my hand on the grab bar and tap on the grab bar of the chair or whatever, or I flat out mentioned, have something for your own safety. Because here, if you want to talk about fear and falling, when you fall, you can sometimes get hurt, but I'll tell you what you hurt more than anything most of the time, and that's your confidence.
Yeah.
And this is a big deal. I was walking a guy. God, it took us a year at PT to get him off of. This is why I don't like walking frames and hemi walkers. So he had a walking frame and he leaned over. It took us a year to get him to stand up straight. And then I started walking him with a gait belt. One day I said to him, "Franklin, I've seen you listen to the Brave games in the backyard in your chair, and it's 10 feet to the back steps. I've seen you walk that with nothing.
Right.
You can do this." I said, "It's like 90% fear." He turned and looked at me and said, "Try 100%. And
Wow.
so one of the things I've done is I walk people on gait belts. I've got a video where I show people how to do it with your feet. You basically mirror their feet.
Right.
And with him, I couldn't spend enough time with him. So actually, I had I bought a rollator, and I have sandbags from being in the video business. We use them to stabilize light stands and stuff. I put two 25-pound sandbags on it, took it up to him, and he could walk down the street with a rollator without me and practice his walking. And you can't turn it over. Now you can fall and let go of it, but at some point, you can only do the things that try and keep yourself safe. If you stepped in a hole and going down, you might not be able to hold on to the rollator, and you could fall down. But if you stay close, grip good, and of course it doesn't work so well for people who only got one hand.
Very true. And I know we're like,
he didn't. His brother had a stroke, and I was working with him for about 2 years until he lost his affected leg due to diabetic heel ulcer. Yeah, amputation.
sure.
And Franklin already got his hand back, watching the Braves games, working on it, and I helped him with walking. So
Yeah, interesting.
yeah, fear's a big thing. I'm 15 years out, and I got a spot right over there where I touch the molding every time I go into my bedroom. It's the paint's worn off.
Yeah.
Turn
Oh,
my
I know.
camera around and show it to you, but
Wow.
why do I do that? I don't know, because
Yeah.
my brain automatically,
Yeah.
hang on to everything.
Yeah. I brought another one here. I know it's over an hour, but
Well,
let's.
I don't care. I mean, it's up to you.
Yeah. Josh is saying my PT is trying to short circuit the fear and thinking by increasing my speed and something else here and length of strides.
I agree with length of stride. I don't agree with speed, but I'm not a PT, so listen to them.
Yeah, and I want to say too is all my years of PT, I was always told from day one, speed is not your friend.
Speed is not your friend?
Right.
I completely agree. The times I've trained for speed, one time I was walking in the parking lot next door here, that's why I'm pointing at it.
Right.
And I was trying to go fast, and apparently I was like leaning forward. And I got to the end of 3 miles, I couldn't stop. And I was leaning forward, and I went down on my knees, and I didn't really hurt myself. I skinned one knee slightly, but
Sure.
because it was summertime and I had on shorts. If I'd had on jeans, nothing would have happened. But I had that whole like falling forward thing. Like when you're a kid and you run down a hill and you feel like you're going to fall on your nose and you try and get your feet to go faster.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I have found that speed comes with form. And I'm telling him to disregard what I'm saying in a sense. But if you want to discuss it with your PT, I think it was Josh, you could talk about that concept. Okay. So I always worked on form because I believe form is more important than distance or speed.
Yeah.
And if you want to time yourself and everything, that's okay. It's a lot safer with a pegboard than it is walking because you generally don't fall out of your chair if you do it.
Yeah, and I don't know how you probably said it, and I probably missed it, Josh. I don't know how post-stroke, how far you're out. Yeah, as having a stroke, because it sounds like that's a dumb guess, but you're maybe fairly a new stroke provider. Maybe not. I mean, I still go to therapy, and I'm 12 years out. So
well, I mean, and that's a trick. Most people don't realize. Some people don't realize their insurance resets every year, and all you need is the doctor's order. You can go back in. I've gone back in anytime they let me.
right.
Why? Because it'll do me some good. But half the reason I've gone the last 6 or 8 years is because I've been helping people. And to me, it's an opportunity to pick their brain. And all the therapists around here know what I'm doing, and they support it. And I'm careful about it. Like I took Franklin for a year. I didn't go in the back that time. I took Deborah for a year and a half. So I went to 150 PT sessions, and I went in the back, and I learned a lot in the back. And I also would ask the neuro PT at the end of the session while she's setting up the next appointment. I asked her my one question. So I asked 150 questions, but I didn't interrupt the session and everything because I didn't want her to say, you need to go back out front and sit in the lobby and wait for us to be done.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be a nuisance because that's my supply of information. So I would say to Josh, talk about form in terms of getting speed. And I didn't time myself a lot walking, but I had certain walks that I did. I mostly walked in my driveway, ran around.
Right.
But I had certain walks I did, and I knew how long they took me. And I found that as I got better with form, and I did start over again, as I got better with form, my speed increased. And when I went for speed, I walked like Chester on Gunsmoke.
Yeah.
He actually wore a 2-inch lift in his in one side to make him do that.
Right. So, well, since well, I think because I usually go for about an hour. What would you tell somebody that is new to the stroke world, haven't they're fairly new stroke survivor, or even the ones that are still down on themselves and I'm never going to get better? What would you tell somebody?
Okay, well, that was a 2-part question. I would go back to learn everything you can about the brain and stroke, be a best patient advocate, learn to be a PT. What would I tell somebody in terms of getting out of the mental rut?
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Boy, I wish I had that magic. I've had people come up to me after I can tell when they're walking across the ballroom. I can just tell what they're going to ask me.
Yeah.
They want me to give them a little teeny magic bullet to take home to their loved one.
Right.
It's always the loved one, not the person.
Yes.
So
it's a good point.
This is a tough one. I try not to string too many days together. I'm a big believer in talk therapy, and I'm a guy who's not afraid to talk and express my emotions, go to the therapist. I also don't consider taking antidepressants a weakness. They're a tool like any other tool, and to all the guys and people that think differently out there, you could be missing out on something that is good for you. I'm not suggesting everybody get on antidepressants. That's something that you have to evaluate with your healthcare professionals. But they did me a lot of good, and I got off of them. Yeah. I could have got off of them at a year, but we were about to move. And my wife said, "It's really stressful moving, so would you mind waiting until we finish moving?" And I said, "No, that's a reasonable request." And as soon as we finished moving, I said, "I want to go to the doctor now and get off these things." And she said, "Fine." And I did. So it's not like a life sentence. I don't know what people's fear is. Believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. It's possible to do it. And I know in making that statement, I'm discounting the severity of your stroke. Some people, I've seen people who get whacked, I call it whacked, so bad that some of what I'm saying doesn't apply to them, but it does apply to most people. One thing I've learned with working with people, both online and 16 of them in person, is do you get all the way better? Who knows? That's a question between you, your therapist, your God, and the amount of work you put in and the severity of your stroke. I'm here to tell you, though, that every single person I've ever worked with who put in the effort got better in some way. So, I can't promise anybody they're going to get all the way back. And by the way, all that crap about like going back to like the day before your stroke's a bunch of crap. If you had a twin brother or sister, they can't go back. They didn't have a stroke.
It's so true. I remember.
It changes every day, and yesterday's gone. Yesterday's gone. You have today, and you have tomorrow to look forward to. So look forward to tomorrow. That's part of believing in yourself. And do your work today so you can get to a better tomorrow.
Right. And
forget about the past. And I ground on the past too. I had bad days. I was on antidepressants. I mean, I know what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly. And there's before this, I think we take as the last question here. Jessica Sanchez is asking you, what would you say about acceptance? Okay. I have a meme on this. I didn't send it to you. I almost did. It's me doing a deep knee bend with my butt less than a fist off the ground. And I did it for David Lauderdale. And I stuck it on the end of my squats video. It's just there. I don't say anything about it. Anyway, Acceptance does not mean quitting, giving up, or rolling over. Acceptance means, Michael J. Fox does the best thing on this. I need to go find his quote somewhere. One time I looked for it, I couldn't find it on YouTube, but basically, it's acceptance has to do with the fact that you're not giving up.
Right.
It's that thing about, I'm going to do the most today so I can have a better tomorrow. And these are the cards that I was dealt. I mean, I had a stroke. I pretty quickly put this aside. There's no mulligans in life. It's in my first motivational speech. I talk about that you don't get a mulligan in life. You don't get to pull out a brand new ball and do a drop.
Right.
So what do I say about acceptance? Accept it.
Yeah.
Play the cards you dealt. Make something positive about it, and do not equate acceptance with quitting, giving up, or rolling over.
Absolutely.
And this is a big thing for a lot of people, because I say this to people and they'll come right back at me and but they're not there yet.
Yeah.
If they do that, I know better than you're just going to get into batting it back and forth across the net with them.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand that.
But they're not there yet.
Right.
I don't know how to get people there yet.
Right. Absolutely. That was a great answer. But hopefully that's what you got something out of that, Jessica. But thank you so much.
Well, if she sends me a message or she looks on my YouTube channel, we did acceptance and attitude part 1 and part 2. So there's an hour talk about it, and I talk about all the, the first one might be more towards acceptance, because like I mentioned earlier, and the second one I talked about positivity, believing, positive affirmations, what you tell yourself.
Right. Was that you and William Lowe? It's
on my YouTube channel. There's a playlist for Roadmap, and I think they're 40 and 48.
And there's 2 channels. Everybody who's here, thank you, she said. Thank you, Jessica. There's 2 channels that if the ones that are here, you need to subscribe to 2 channels. Let's Talk Stroke on YouTube, and then your channel is Ralph Preston.
Ralph Preston video, all one word.
Yeah, it's all
like Let's Talk Stroke is all one word, because I don't think they let you use spaces.
Right. I think you can look them up on even if it is spaces, then it'll take you right there. But
yeah, mine's not spaces. I don't think it would let me.
Oh, I'd have to go back now.
It's interesting what's happened. 15 years ago, I already had a YouTube channel because I'm a video professional. I had my demo reel and a couple of samples of my work to get more work. And being a video person,
right,
I wanted to do exercises to my TV, which is right there.
Right.
And I couldn't find a single video on stroke. I found one in Australia.
Yeah.
And now there's like 5,000 stroke channels.
Yeah. They're on there.
Or 500 anyway.
TikTok, you name it. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, we need to do this again because we'll talk right after it, but I appreciate you being here. It was very
well, I'll come back, and I think we should explore the idea of maybe doing some joint meetings on a subject where, like, it's not like me the guest, where we're like co-hosting something, and
I agree. I agree 100%.
So, you and I are working on that on the side, and we'll keep working on it. And I appreciate you having me. It's, I know it's not about me, but I feel like, maybe these things work for me, and I've seen them work for other people. So, I'm just trying to, I believe that a focused recovery is, and you do too, obviously, you wouldn't bring scientists onto your show.
Right.
So
right.
If you can learn how to, be focused in terms of your exercises, learn stuff about how stroke works, how the brain rewires itself, and so you're going to take a more focused approach to your recovery, and everything in life, the more focused you are, the better results you're going to have. So all I'm trying to do with everybody is provide any and all information that I can and what benefited me.
Yeah, and help them recover more.
Make it a little easier on the next person. I mean, who knows? It wasn't that easy for most of us.
No, exactly. Yes, all these. I'll send it to you, but the comments. Thank you guys for being here, and we'll chat right now, or just 1 second here. So
Can you do you actually get all the comments like a text file?
yeah, they're all well.
Does it have like people's Facebook names? Because I would actually,
Yeah.
I would go back and answer any questions that didn't get answered. If you want to send that to me.
Absolutely. You'll see this, and but we'll end. And I hope everyone has a great day. And again, subscribe to
Stroke and Ralph Preston video.
Yeah. Okay, that didn't come out right. But anyway, have a great day, and we'll be talking real soon here. Take care, you guys.